Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel and welcome to this week's GT Sport Daily Race C race review. We are visiting Northern Italy and of course the Cathedral of Speed Monza. We're in Group 3 machinery, and in this video we're going to look at a number of races where we're going to be starting in the last position in low rated lobbies, and we're going to see if we can negotiate the traffic, escape the penalties, and see if I can pass on a few tips on how to sort of best negotiate these kind of races. Race details are on the screen there very briefly. If you see the strategy guide you'll be aware of those. But tyre wears at times 13, fuels at times 6. We've got racing medium, racing hard tyres, and that hard tyre is mandatory. And the best strategy for this one is to do as much fuel saving as you can and do a one stop. So moving on to the start of the race there, you may notice something a little bit different. The account number there is Womble Skipper, and we are in the Oceania region. So we are joined by mostly Japanese drivers, some other Australians. Well, I say other Australians, of course I'm not Australian, but we are registered as an Australian, and some New Zealanders. So the reason I wanted to feature some racing from this account is because there's been a lot of sort of stories and complaints and tweets etc. over the last week or so with this new penalty system about the sort of sportsmanship rating also being very harsh. So picking up a couple of penalties has seen people getting their SR sort of reset a couple of levels, and sometimes that's leading to a DR reset. And I guess some drivers will find themselves in lobbies where they're kind of a lot quicker than the drivers around them, and they maybe find it a bit difficult to negotiate these races and get their SR and their DR back up. So the sort of purpose of this video is that if I'm going to try and sort of pass on some tips that I use when I'm racing against drivers that are not as fast as me, a little bit more erratic, a little bit less consistent, and hopefully you can maybe use some of these if you're having trouble sort of building your SR back up to get back up to SRS. The penalty system is a little bit dodgy at the moment, there's no two doubts about that. It's not quite as bad as people are making out, but there is some unnecessary penalties getting thrown out there, maybe just a little bit too often. So come down into turn 1 there, we had the usual turn 1 chaos. We sort of hit the back of the Corvette, didn't pick up a penalty for that, but sort of breaking into the second chicane, we get absolutely murdered from behind. So back down into 17th place here, we're going to start quickly making up some places down the inside of the GTR into Lesmo number 1. You can see there's a litany of penalties in front of us. So I sort of go in for mindset when I'm racing in this kind of lobby that I know I'm quicker than these guys, I know I'm going to carry more speed through the corners, I know they're going to be a little bit less aware, they're going to be a little bit less consistent and maybe a little bit more erratic. So you just got to take all that into account, I think, when you find yourself racing against drivers that are not quite as fast as you. So we get down the inside of the SLS there into Ascari, got a car off to the right hand side there, and we're in the slipstream of this GTR in front of us. So again, you just got to be very, very patient. You're in no real hurry to try and get some of the moves done here. So in this kind of situation here, I'm not looking to sort of make a move on this GTR into Parabolica. I'm just going to do some fuel saving, and I'm going to sort of rely on them making mistakes. So they two of them make a mistake there. I try to take avoiding action on the GTR, and in the process sideswipe the Viper. So as I said, I'm going to try and pass on advice here on how to deal with these drivers and how to sort of negotiate it, and we've not had a great start. We pick up a 3-second penalty. Now that was probably a justified penalty because we did make a sort of an evasive action and they actually sideswipe the Viper off the track. So I can't really argue that one too much. You can see come down into turn 1 there, we got a fairly hefty hit up the backside once again, and a little bit more carnage. So we're saving that penalty here, and I'm looking behind me. I know this Alfa Romeo is going to go for the move, so see it on the radar, I'll let him make the move. Just give him the space, try to avoid that contact, even though it was an absolute dive. It's just the way sometimes you've got to deal with these things. We know we can sort of catch this driver and pass them fairly easily later on in the lap. So in the slipstream here, coming down towards Parabolica, not trying to get too close, not entirely sure where they're going to brake. The sort of plan was to make a move down into turn 1, but the Alfa Romeo driver decides to exit stage left and makes it a whole lot easier for us. So jumping forward here, I think we've jumped forward about a lap, and we've caught up to the 7th place driver, Sugai, in the GTR there. Now he looks a little bit erratic and he looks like he's very keen to not let me overtake, so we're just not going to get too close to this driver if we can avoid it, and try and look for the simple overtaking manoeuvre down into turn 1. So we are going down the outside towards Parabolic here. We're not looking to make the overtake, we'll brake nice and early. See if we can get a cut back here. The Japanese driver sees it coming, closes the door, so we have to put on the anchors again. Avoid that rear contact. I know I can easily pick up a 1 second penalty if I drive into the back of them. And there's no real any sort of rush to make that move at the moment. We can sort of get in the slipstream here and go for the move down towards turn 1. But you can see from there I'm not too keen to do it. This driver's obviously got me a little bit concerned. Do sort of poke a nose, but decide to sort of back out of it. We're just going to use this opportunity trying to save some fuel. Again, we make some rear contact there, just because the driver gets it completely wrong out of turn number 2. We do get an orange SR down for that, but thankfully no penalty. And don't worry about getting these orange SR downs, you'll pick up a lot more SR ups or green SR ups to counteract them. I hear a lot of stories about people getting 1 penalty and or 2 SR downs and losing 30-40 DR. That's not been my experience, I have to say. We got a 3 second penalty in this race and we've just had an orange SR down, and I think I lost 6 SR for this race. In fact, I think it was only 5. I went from 99 down to 94. So we just waited till that driver made a mistake and we got the overtake done on them. Jumping forward here to lap number 6, we've made our pit stop. We started on the hard tyres, we're now onto the medium tyres and we're catching these drivers in front of us. We have a little bit of a moment. We tried to take avoiding action on the Aston Martin. I think that's the DBR9 GT1 version Aston Martin, and unfortunately we pick up a ½ second corner cut penalty there. So we managed to avoid the collision with the car in front, but unfortunately the game can't sort of quite detect that that's what we were doing, taking avoiding action on another car. All it sees is we've cut the track and gives us a ½ second penalty for that. So again here we're just trying to, we've got some fuel to save. We underfueled a little bit at our pit stop, and we can see the Japanese driver here, Ace. He's obviously defending down into turn 1, so he's not going to make it too easy for us. We do actually go for the move in the end, and we actually get the move done nice and easy down into turn 1. I actually thought we sort of went through turn 1 behind that driver and didn't go for the overtake, and that was to be the end of this race. Managed to catch up to 3rd place rapidly over the course of the last few laps. We're not close enough to make a move, so we did our best there to avoid contact. We did pick up a 3 second penalty. That was my fault. We have to take that one. Again, it's just about trying to predict what these slower drivers are going to do in front of you, which is not always easy, but just give them as much space as possible, particularly into braking zones, and you should find things a little bit better and reduce that likelihood of picking up some unnecessary penalties. So moving on to race number 2, we've got a few more sort of B rated drivers in here. It's like a sort of mix of B, C and D rated drivers. Let's see if we can do a better job of avoiding contact and avoiding penalties in this one. Now we are starting plumb last, so that should make our job a little bit easier into turn 1. We've got nobody behind us, we can just really slow it down, just let the carnage unfold in front of us and negotiate a nice safe path through. Well, that was the plan until we had a little bit of a bug with round, I think it's round about P9 or 10. They've not managed to sort of move off the line, and it's budged up all the cars behind them as we come out the last turn, and you can just see that this is not going to be a whole barrel of laughs down into turn 1. Now we do make up 1 position through that sort of chaos there, but you can see I'm fuel mix 2 as you're coming down and run into turn 1. I do not want to be part of any of that down there. I'm quite happy to let them sort it out amongst themselves and pick up the pieces. So we brake nice and early, giving everyone as wide a berth as we can. We've got a Lamborghini off the right hand side there. We take the avoiding action. They do ghosts to come back onto the track, thankfully, and we've picked up only the 1 more position there as we come through turn 1. So it's actually a little bit more clean than I thought. Okay, yeah, the Lamborghini driver has been knocked off the track, but that's to be expected. We get by the FT1 there on the straight, watching the radar here as we brake into the second chicane, braking quite late because we weren't sure what they were going to do. A little bit more chaos. We've made up another couple of positions, and we're going to take a look down the inside of the Mazda into Lesmo 1 here. Keeping an eye on that radar, the Mazda is still there, so we have to give them space on the exit. Nice bit of racing with the Mazda here, nice bit of space. We have the inside for Lesmo number 2, and we're up into 14th place, and there's the drivers that have picked up penalties through that first few corners. just the one driver there with a penalty, so not too bad in the grand scheme of things for Monza. And let's be honest, Monza is a bit of a wreck fest on the lap one in every racing game I've ever played. So now a couple of drivers having some troubles as we come through Ascari. That's going to move us up into 11th position, and we've got another driver with another penalty in front of us. So fast forwarding a little bit there, we've got up with the Mercedes, got a 1 second penalty, no doubt for a rear contact of some sort on another driver. Now we're not too interested in getting the job done here. I'm quite happy to just wait till we get to the penalty zone and we'll pick up this position off this driver. So we're moving out the slipstream there, not wanting to close up too much, but you can see we have a lot more speed over this driver. Coming into turn number 1, just give them all the space in the world, and we'll just sort of power by them on the exit under better acceleration. I think I'm going to assume the driver's probably on automatic transmission there, just by how much we sort of were able to beat them down the straight. And that's a bit of an example there, just how the sort of difference between manual and automatic. So we sort of jump forward a little bit, we've managed to catch up to the next group of drivers. Unfortunately, a very stupid corner cut there into the first part of Ascari. Again, that was me just trying to take it easy. Sometimes you try to take it easy into a corner, you brake a little bit earlier, and you just sort of haven't realised you've dropped quite as much speed, and you pick up these silly penalties. So that's a little bit annoying. So we didn't really try to make too much of a move on these drivers in front of us here for our lap. We had a penalty to serve, and there we go, served that penalty, and we've managed to catch back up to the drivers we were fighting with a little bit later on in the lap. So this driver here in the Lexus, going to look to try and get the move done down into turn 1 here, but we are saving fuel at this point as well, so you can just see the short shift in the Lexus has obviously got the slipstream as on top of that. Obviously thinks we were going to go for a move though, and completely misses the braking point. And in all fairness, they do try to take avoiding action, particularly on the P5 driver in front of us, and they ghosted before they hit the other driver, so nobody really became an innocent victim of that driver missing their braking point for that one, which is always good to see. Past the Mustang here into Curva Grande, I'm going to assume they're maybe saving a little bit of fuel there. Keeping an eye on that radar as we come into the second chicane, you can see they've not made the move, it means we can take the normal line. Got a driver in front of us with a penalty to serve, so that's going to be another position that we'll make up in that respect. So making up these positions fairly easily, just not getting involved in any sort of unnecessary battling. Taking advantage of the penalty system, to be honest with you. That is just something I don't think a lot of people consider. Yes, we're all picking up some dodgy penalties, but everyone's picking up dodgy penalties, and you're probably benefiting far greater from other drivers getting undeserved penalties than you are losing out when you get an undeserved penalty. So we made big grounds on this Corvette in third place here. But slipstream, better exit, probably manual transmission against the automatic transmission there, and we blow past them fairly easily on the straight down towards Parabolica. I'm not entirely sure why we're so much quicker than them. So jumping forward a couple of laps here, we've made our pit stop. We've got the medium tyres on now, and we have moved up into second place courtesy of I think just a shorter pit stop, and we are hassling P1 for the victory now. Coming through Ascari there, you can see we've got a lot more speed, so but again we've got to can't just drive through the cars if they're not there. We have to sort of account for their speed and sort of slow down a lot, just avoid that rear contact. We've got a couple of laps here to work the move here. We're in no particular hurry. We'll just gauge how this driver's driving, what sort of speed, just how defensive they're going to be before we go for the move. We have got a bit of a run out of Parabolica down towards turn 1. You see the Jaguar is not lacking straight line speed against the Corvette there, that's for sure. We're on the outside here. It's going to be a bit of an ambitious move. We're going to go for it. We're going to brake a little bit later. We'll leave space on the the apex of turn 1, and the Japanese driver reciprocates it. There's a little bit of contact. We pick up the SR down again. An SR down, a couple of them are SR. Nothing to worry about. You'll pick up a lot more SR ups during the course of the race to sort of counteract them. Japanese driver is in our slipstream here. I wasn't entirely sure what they're going to do down towards the second chicane. We brake nice and early. I see they're still left the nose in there, so I've got to give them a little bit of space. There is contact. We kind of spun round a little bit, and the Japanese driver moves ahead of us. Not the cleanest move in the world, but Never put us off the track either. Not too much for us to worry about. Again, we've still got plenty of this race to sort of get this move done. Just taking it nice and easy through the Lesmos there. Again, I keep saying it, I'm going to keep repeating it because it's something you're going to have to get into your driving if you want to start avoiding penalties. You cannot make rear contact with the car in front. Get a run down towards Ascari. Not really a good overtaking opportunity around the outside. Again, look how much I'm having to slow the car there. Come off the throttle and stuff just to make sure we don't make that contact. Now down the outside of the Japanese driver, down towards Parabolica once again. We are slightly ahead here, so we're maybe going to sort of try and get the cut back, try and get to the inside, down the main straight, and then get the move complete into turn number 1. Good driving here with the Japanese driver. I'm not entirely sure what DR they are, but they were doing their very best to give us space. And doing a good job of that as well. So we are now ahead. We did manage to kind of get round the outside in Parabolica, and we had enough of the car ahead to move the car to the inside towards turn number 1. Japanese driver taking a look down the outside turn number 1, turns in a little bit early. There's a little bit of contact, but that's just the way that kind of corner works. You've got to wait until the car on the inside is committed to the turn before you can turn your car in. But that was the move complete, and that was the victory picked up there. And we moved up 18 places, couple of SR, I think we put one SR, had one SR down in that race, no penalties, and we managed to negotiate the traffic fairly safely there. So we're moving on to race number 3, we have changed car for this one. Everyone's in the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin is the best car for the track, the V8 Vantage, but we're not in the V8 Vantage, we are in the DBR9 GT1 2010. So starting 18th out of 20 for this one. Slightly higher rated lobby a game, or kind of building up DR as we sort of came into this race. So this one should prove to be a little bit more of a challenge, but we should be able to kind of get quite high up the field before the race finishes if we can negotiate the traffic safely, pick up no penalties, etc, etc, etc. As you can see there, we moved the fuel mix into number 6 for the start of the race. That's a little tip for anyone who doesn't do that. You can sort of save a few percentage of fuel just by doing that. Which may come in invaluable come the pit stop time or the end of the race. But moving it back to fuel mix number 1 for the run down to turn 1, and we are well behind here. Again, we're in no hurry to be involved in what's about to happen down here. You can see the yellow flags are out already. Just going to try and do our best to sort of thread the needle through these cars, taking it nice and wide, giving as much space as we can get. GTR kind of goes in front of us, and we actually, if we look behind, we put that Lancer or Mitsubishi Evo off the track there. Probably worth of a penalty. We put a car off the track but we didn't get it. Again, another thing about the penalty system I don't think too many people think about is that yes, we pick up dodgy penalties, but we also get away with stuff as well which is probably worth of a penalty, but nobody ever mentions that, do they? A bit more carnage through the second chicane. We got hit from behind, which is why we went into the Supra. Thankfully we don't pick up a penalty for that one. Still got the Supra in our inside into Lesbo number 2, but it gives up the position. And we've negotiated the first half of lap number 1, penalty free, and made up 4 positions. Car in front of us serving a penalty for something that happened over the first few corners. Moves us up into P13. Yellow flags are out for Ascari, as they always are on lap number 1. Got a car off the right hand side, that's another position made up. And into the slipstream of P11 there. So we'll just hit the warp speed button, we pass the Peugeot down the main straight, doesn't put up any fight, and we pick up another position, courtesy of somebody spinning out of turn 1. Come down into the second chicane, we are in the slipstream of the Porsche now. I can see they take a funny line in there, so I don't have to overslow the car, and we'll look to get the cut back on the second part of the chicane. That works out very nicely for us. For that, we could just see the Porsche was creating a funny line, so again we have to alter our speed, alter our line, and sort of hopefully we can predict what they were going to do. I knew they were going to be slow at the second part of the chicane, so we alter our driving to accommodate that. P8 there's got a penalty, that's going to be another position for us, again just taking advantage of the penalty system. And jumping forward here a couple of laps, took us a couple of laps to catch up with the cars in front of us. We are now onto the slipstream of the Mercedes of P number 6, coming into the main straight. So we're going to get a bit of a run on this car down towards turn number 1. I can't actually remember if we make the move or not. We'll soon find out, I suppose. We are closing up in the slipstream here. Looks like he's going to stay to the left hand side, so we are going to go for the move down into turn number 1. Bit brave here, we've not got the radar on, we've still got the fuel on. But we just sort of get the car stopped nice and easily, nice easy apex. And we're able to take the normal line through the second part of the first chicane, and that allows us to stay in the slipstream of the car in front of us as well. And we look like we're a bit far behind to be making a move down towards the second chicane, but I'm going to again assume that this driver may well be an automatic transmission just by how much we were gaining on them. And we sort of gain enough for them to go defensive into the second chicane. Now this just does put us off, and we sort of miss our kind of turn-in point where we're a little bit blinded, and we cut the corner and pick up a silly half-second penalty. And we're about to have a little bit of a trio of errors here, because coming into the first Lesbo we were going to run wide, and we actually pick up another half-second track limits penalty, and in the process we then sort of block the driver behind us, take a little bit of a tap, get an SR down, and get another second penalty on top of that. So we end up with 2 seconds in total. Just one of these unfortunate sequences where, you know, I'm not entirely sure what happened, just seemed to be a little bit annoyed probably with the half-second penalty and didn't drive it very well. But we served that penalty, and as we move on to lap number 6 here, doing a longer stint on the hard tyres, trying to escape some of the cars that we're sort of fighting with. Felt like we still had enough pace in the hard tyres to maybe get a little bit of a jump on the cars around us. P3's made a mistake out of Lesbo number 2, that allows us to move up into P3 before Ascari. We are going to pit at the end of this lap though. So one thing about the DBR9 GT1, it's very very good in fuel. I have to say, I think we were able to get nearly 8 laps out of the tank. Or sorry, maybe at least 7.5. So pitting here at the end of lap number 6, we're going to take on the medium tyres. Stopping for some fuel as well. How much fuel are we going to take on? Probably going to overfill the tank a little bit just so we can be a bit more aggressive in the second part of the race. 44%, that's not too bad at all. And we're going to rejoin the race. Unfortunately, just behind these 2 cars coming down into turn number 1, so we have to stay to the right hand side there. Let those 2 cars pass, and we rejoin the race in 6th place. 4 laps to go, we do have a fresh set of mediums. Let's see how far up we can get, and see if we can do all the overtakes nice and cleanly and avoid some penalties. So we're going to get the first move done straight away on the Nissan GTR down towards the second chicane. We're in the slipstream, squeezes a little bit to the left hand side but leaves us just a nice bit of car width. Get the braking done, gives up the position. That's one place made up as well. Nice bit of driving there with the GTR driver, realised the game was up, didn't sort of gift us the pass but didn't make it too difficult either. So fast forward a little bit, so to try and catch these drivers in front of us. So they did actually have pretty decent pace at this point. You can see we're going to fast forward through about a lap and a half. But we do eventually catch them as we come out the second chicane, as they start to squabble a little bit. Into Lesmo number 1. Closing. Just about getting into that slipstream now as well. Lesmo number 2, and we are very much in the fight. A little bit of a bad exit for the Mercedes there. That's going to give us a run down the outside towards into Ascari. They do have the slipstream though, so I'm not really closing. Again, this is not a good position. I know there's not an overtake on there, so we are going to back out of that one. Brake nice and early. I'm not entirely sure where their braking point is. Again, I've said it many times before, just avoiding those little contacts where you can pick up a 1 second penalty. And you can see one of the drivers in front of us has fallen foul of that very penalty we were just discussing there. Now, I'm not entirely sure what it was for. Maybe they were innocent, maybe they weren't, who knows. Into parabolic we come. They're still squabbling quite a lot. The driver that's picked up the penalty was actually leading the race in the early stages, so I'm not entirely sure what's happened to them. I think they maybe pitted just a little bit too early. Now this is not a good situation here. Got 3 cars battling in front of me. I just want to negotiate them without a penalty please game. So I'm just going to let them try and sort it out amongst themselves and try and pick up the pieces. And you can see the Corvette there of fried tyres has got a little bit feisty down into turn 1. But everybody makes it safely. No contact penalties, but the Mercedes has picked up a half second track limits penalty. So we're not that far away from the penalty zone here. Again, could I make the move down into the second chicane here? Yes I could. But do I really want to when I know they've got penalties to serve now? A bit nice and early. A nice bit of side-by-side driving with the Mercedes driver through the second chicane. Both giving each other room, which was nice to see. I did have to brake nice and early because I wasn't entirely sure what was going to happen with the cars in front of us, and that driver took advantage of it and also gave us the space that we needed as well, so that was nice to see. We are getting to the penalty zone now, and as I said, there was no need for me to kind of make the overtakes and risk a penalty when I've got these two drivers here going to be serving penalties. So that's 2 of the 3 drivers out of the way. Can we pick up a P2? The podium looks like we are set for that quite comfortably at this moment, but we do want that second position if we can get it. So we're on lap number 9, come towards the end of that. We've got 1 lap to try and catch this driver and overtake them. So as we chase P2 down, let's just discuss a few things that I kind of discovered while racing in these lobbies with drivers. They're not quite of my speed, and I don't mean to sound big-headed, probably not quite of my sort of racecraft skill. Patience is key, and you do have to just take your time when you're negotiating these drivers. You need to sort of take into account that they're not as quick as you, they're not going to be as quick through the corners, they're not maybe going to have the awareness of some of the higher rated drivers as well. So just, if you sort of take all these things into account as you go for the overtakes, then you should find that you can get through them a lot more safely and with a lot less contact. Another big thing in these lobbies is take advantage of the penalty system. Do everything you can to avoid penalties. Just be so scared of making contact with another car, and let all the other drivers fall foul of the penalty system. It's a lot easier to pick up pass a car when they're ghosted in the penalty zone than it is to try and sort of throw it down the inside of them into a corner and just hope that they're going to see you there. So that's the sort of key takeaways that I've kind of learned from these races. Hopefully you can take some of that advice and tips into your races. If you're having trouble getting your SR back up, then hopefully some of these tips may help you. But back to the race, we have caught up with Massa Ando here, and we're putting him under pressure as we come out of Lesmo number 2 and we take the run down to Ascari. Again, I'm not really interested in whether I finish P2 or P3 here. I just want to get through the race without a penalty. Keep my SR nice and high and pick up some DR. I'm car number 19 here, so P3 is very good for my driver rating. But we do get a run out of Ascari. We're going to take a look down the outside of Parabolica, and we are going to get ahead. Probably got more fuel at this point. We do that car left ahead, but I think we've seen the script for this one many times before, haven't we? Japanese driver just misses his braking point, bumps into me, runs me wide, and he takes that position. I knew that was coming all day, but as I said, I'm not especially bothered about it. I always give him a flash of the lights though, well, more than just the one flash. But it's a third position. I think we started that one 18th place. Penalty free in terms of contact penalty. We did pick up a track limits penalty. So as I said, purpose for this video was just to sort of talk you through what I do when I'm kind of driving against sort of lower rated drivers, and I'm not sort of seeing that in any kind of bad way about these drivers. I actually had a lot of clean racing, I think you can see as well. Quite a lot of drivers quite willing to sort of give me space and just let me pass and stuff like that. So all these drivers, they're not dirty per se or anything, just a little bit erratic, not got that consistency, and you just have to take that into account when you're racing against them. However, this has been an exceptionally long video. I don't know how it ended up quite as long as this. Please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button if you like what we're doing on the channel, and until the next one, and it will be a very short video for the next one, I promise you that. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye now.